All right. Well, hello, everyone. And today we have something special, which is our first repeat guest on whatever this is. And I realized very rudely, I just said like how much I like Steve when I started the last time. I didn't give Steve like a proper chance to introduce himself, say what his channel is about, say what he does for a living. So, Steve, why don't you introduce yourself for people who maybe don't know who you are?
I I I have a YouTube channel named Steve Donoghue. After me, I am a book critic, a book section editor, uh, and also a sexy influencer right here on BookTube. I've been making videos for 11 years, several a day. Because if I make fewer than that, I hear about it. I don't know what else to say about myself. Closing on 10,000 videos. I am the book section editor of a print newspaper in northern Georgia. I'm one of the only dedicated book section editors left in the world. And I'm an active freelancer. So
there you go. And what is it? Blurbed on the cover of Michael Katz's Crime and Punishment?
I am blurbed on the Michael Katz Crime and Punishment, the Michael Katz Brothers Karamazov, and also the Norton Critical Edition of the Bible. I am blurbed on the Bible.
That's, I mean, you know, now is it above the title, below the title?
I wanted it to be above. Apparently the author takes precedence. What a rip-off.
No, I suppose that is as it should be. Now, Steve, we talked about this a little bit last time, but you've said before that you think that oftentimes when we're talking about books and movies that are based on them, that you think that movies are often better than the books that they're based on. And I think your argument is that like most books that are written are bad, and that's some of your reasoning. So what was the best movie you watched last year?
Probably the new Nosferatu movie. Was that last year? I blur a little because I get a lot of these things ahead of time. Oh no, what am I saying? Superman. What's the
okay.
Last year? Superman. Where I waited forever and ever to finally see Crypto the Superdog on the big screen. I was not disappointed. So no, it was Superman. But most books, books are the product of an author. Sweaty paunch, unconvincing comb over, crippling self-doubt, hours and hours and hours wrestling with and then finally giving in to their own private demons, and you're trapped on the page with this group for who knows how many pages. Let's not kid ourselves. By page 100, even the most assiduous editor has given up. So the rest of that, you're on your own, just wandering in the Moby Desert with this loser. Well, that's not true in a movie. That's absolutely not true in a movie. There are writers, editors, there are story people, there are pitch people, there's a director of photography, there are section editors, and then there's the editor himself, whittling away at all the gaseous crap that's put in there by the author. That's the whole point, is to do that. Sometimes they don't do a good job of it, but most of the time they cut away the stuff that makes authors very annoying and leave the story, which they then put into the hands of hopefully really good actors. That's inevitably going to result in a better product.
So why didn't you become a movie critic instead of a book critic?
I have been told over the decades that there's a particular tang to my movie criticism and that I should do more of it. But my first love was book criticism, so I just stuck with that.
Stuck with it, yeah. Who do you think is the most overrated director working today?
What directors are working today? I can't stand the kitschy gimmicky ones like Anderson, where the movie is just twee. The movie is entirely twee. There's lots of good camera work there, but that's not him. That's his director of photography, who I think they're a dedicated pair, but still, probably Scorsese.
Yeah,
still probably Scorsese. But you know, in any case, even the most overrated director is still going to be better than the most overrated writer, because he's not working alone. He's got people who can risk everything by saying, "Hey, boss, I don't think this take works." Whereas like I say, a writer might have that and an editor, but only for the first 100 pages. Then the editor is off to a 3 martini Cobb salad lunch, and the writer's on his own, and you're stuck with him. You're stuck with him. I'm not saying that at the moment I'm thinking of David Foster Wallace. I could be thinking of anybody.
Well, we were saying right before we hit live of like authors where, you know, they take you on a story and then, you know, 50 pages and they go, well, I have you here, and go on some digression or something that has nothing to do with the story. Yeah. And specifically in the examples that we were alluding to, that was my first question, is where were the editors to be like, hey, boss, maybe you want to like cut this out. Maybe you want to like redo this bit. Maybe trim this up a bit.
Yeah, the problem is one of the problems. One of the problems, of course, is since the 1980s, the ubiquitous ready availability of market-grade cocaine. But another problem is that there's been a massive proliferation in MFA programs where you pay, usually through the nose, to get a degree in writing, a Master of Fine Arts degree. And that's all voluntary. I mean, no one has to do an MFA to finish any kind of a program. So you can't upset the customer. You can critique their work, but you can't bash them. You can't put them through their paces because they're paying a huge amount of money to keep your school afloat. And this has the inevitable effect of producing generation after generation of writers who think they can't do any wrong. A far cry from, you know, ye olden days when an editor like Max Perkins could take your work out behind the woodshed. That largely isn't possible anymore. That can't be done. Writers won't hear it. They won't hear of it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. I had a free ride at Yaddo, and everybody at my MFA program said that the sun shined out my behind. And you're criticizing me? I don't think so. And the publishing world doesn't do itself any favors, because every once in a while it anoints one of these wonderkins with $30 million for a debut novel or something like that.
But I'm blanking out on his name. Who is the very famous early science fiction editor who edited Asimov and kind of like defined the golden era? I can't remember what his name is. Yeah. But like if I remember correctly, the story is that like Asimov wanted to put aliens in the Foundation books, and he was like, no aliens.
Amazing. When you read the old accounts, it's amazing the sheer amount of intrusiveness of those old editors.
Yeah.
It's incredible that the things that you just casually do, like one of the foundational New Yorker editors who got a poem in the mail from a friend of the magazine and a published poet, and took the sheet of paper with the poem on it on his desk, was reading it over, and suddenly took a pencil to it, saying, I don't know if this works. I don't know that maybe that doesn't work. Called up the poet and said, I made a few changes. Here's what I think. And the poet was Robert Frost. The editors don't think anything of it. Now, not a chance. No way. But I have to ask a question to you. Are you sure that you're not going to get in trouble with the rest of FantasyTube for talking to me? Much less talking to me a second time?
Well, you never know. I mean, not that I'm watching it, but like if you looked at the numbers on our last conversation, there are plenty of people who seem to like it. So
okay.
Yeah.
Let's hope. I don't want to.
Well, I had a good time, and that's what matters, right? So what is it about, like, if authors aren't being edited maybe like they used to, then when you get something that is really good work, or that is, you know, I don't know, whatever high praise you want to laud on, say an author like Hilary Mantel, is that just the result of her putting in the work and like knowing what she's doing in terms of her writing craft?
I don't know the story there. She may have had a really good editor, a really hands-on editor. I don't know the story in every case. I would suggest modern crop of editors tend to back away from financial success. The minute the book is successful, they feel like I probably better not touch this too much. I don't know if that's the case with Hilary Mantel, but I could certainly suspect it, considering that the third book of those three is twice as long as the next two.
Sure, yeah.
That's usually a sign that an editor has gone on a vacation to Tahiti and that the author's on their own. And you know, I think The Mirror and the Light is brilliant, but it's full of indulgence on the author's part, just full of it. So, you know, and author indulgences, that's what I'm talking about. That's the sort of thing that gets carved out of a movie. Like whenever I mention this, whenever I say that the movie is almost always better than the book, people who know my reading loves and likes go straight for the heart of the matter and say Moby Dick. They know that I love Moby Dick. They know that I love it. And I do. I unabashedly love it. I love every word of it. But the movie is brilliant. The movie is absolutely brilliant. And it is so because it cuts out all the author indulgences and leaves everything else. So Moby Dick is a tough example. Lonesome Dove would be another tough example. But usually not. Usually the movie version has been sharpened into something that's really, really better than the printed thing. People always consider that to be a heresy.
Yeah, well, what is it? The upcoming movie for Project Hail Mary, you know, based on the Andy Weir novel. Like the movie for this, the runtime, if I remember correctly, was like over 2.5 hours long, 2 hours 45 minutes. It's just like Return of the King obscene length of runtime. And like I haven't read Project Hail Mary, but I've read The Martian, and a story with that type of scope, it makes me scratch my head a little bit of like, so Peter Jackson gets the same amount of time, or like Tolkien gets the same amount of time that Andy Weir does. Like, really? Okay, guys. So I wonder if some of that indulgence is in movies.
I guarantee you, Project Hail Mary, the movie, will be more enjoyable than the insufferable book. Where the book is page after page after page of, you know, this joke is so funny that I have to include it, even though it's out of character for everybody and not part of the narrative. And then 40 pages later, I'm going to include it again because it's that funny. And you know, thanks to the success of The Martian, who at Andy Weir's publisher is going to tell him, you know, it's not really funny. It wasn't funny enough to put in there once, let alone twice. They'd be gone. Whereas the movie will have a relatively charismatic lead and really good special effects. So there'll be plenty to keep you occupied. I bet it will be better than the book. That's not a high bar to clear, but I bet that it will be. You have to go elsewhere for more serious adaptations and wonder about that. You know, are they going to be more serious? Are they going to be better? That sometimes it can be a tough call. Usually not. Usually not for me. Actually, you mentioned movies from last year. Another movie that I really loved last year that I still don't think has wide release in theaters. It's won some awards, but I don't think you can just go down to your Cineplex and see it. The new French adaptation of Albert Camus' The Stranger. And the adaptation is brilliant. Just brilliant. But I went and reread the book because I watched the adaptation like 30 times. I thought I just fell in love with the visuals. So I went back and reread the book and thought, well, this is really good too. Really, really good. And are there nuances that I'm missing? So I read the book. I got it at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston and thought, well, this is really good, but why is the movie moving me more? So I downloaded the book itself, not in a translation, but actually in French. And I don't know. The movie is still doing things that the book doesn't do that are good. So it'd be kind of a toss-up, I guess. It'd be kind of a toss-up there, but usually not.
So is your prediction that this new Wuthering Heights movie is gonna be better than the book?
It's awful. Just awful. It's just awful. Now, it couldn't be good enough anyway. There isn't anything there is no movie adaptation that could be as good as Wuthering Heights. So let's just be clear that way. I'm a heretic, but I'm not that bad a heretic. This thing, oh God. You get these actors, you send them to rehab. You get them out of rehab, you put them on some sort of cameo show in a movie, or you get them to play, you know, an android or a princess or something like that. You get hordes of sycophants and aides all around them. The minute they do 3 minutes of a cold read in a scene, the cameras stop and they collapse and they need to be totally revived. And if you do that enough times, you get it into your head, and worse, you get it into their pretty little heads that they have talent. And the next thing they're going to want to do is give me War and Peace, man. And then you get something like this. You get something like this new Wuthering Heights, which is a disgrace. It's just the two leads are disgraceful. It's all I could think about when I have for our viewers. I guess there will be viewers. I have a friend who works in Hollywood. I get screeners. I get advanced screeners of these things. Sometimes I'm talking about these things that aren't out yet or don't have wide release. And I'm not meaning to poison your experience. You might go and love it. But when I was watching this new Wuthering Heights, all I was thinking about was the infamous scene from Citizen Kane, where Citizen Kane's wife has been propped up by his success and thinks that she has an artistic career. And at one point she's singing, she's awful. And the audience is afraid to call her awful. And she's just sweating bullets because she knows she stinks. All I could think about was that take that budget and just go into the country and find a really good local rep. Go to some local repertory theater and ask the director of that theater, who are your two best people? If I give you an unlimited budget, I want to do a new Wuthering Heights, I don't care about star power. You could find 50 people to do this. Do a better job than these two Lhasa Apsos just sitting there preening and posing on gosh, utterly ridiculous. Just utterly ridiculous. Sorry. The new Wuthering Heights, thumbs down from Steve. I guess you're seeing now a live demonstration of why I don't do movie criticism.
I wonder, like it's like it's 2026. Like who goes to see a movie because Margot Robbie is the star of it anymore? Like people say the age of the movie star is over. Like there's maybe 3 people who could lead a movie. So why not get 2 great up and coming like people, some no-name people, and like market the hell out of your movie? And I guess I don't see why needing a recognizable face is such a priority, and especially since it eats up so much money, to have these guys in it anyway.
I know the only explanation I can come up with for her being in the movie is that there are people who go to movies because she's in them. But I agree. I would think the age of that kind of a draw would be over, but I guess not. I guess not. Does that mean that there are people who went to see the Dune movies because of Timothée Chalamet? Probably.
Well, I've heard people point out, and I think there's probably some truth to this. And I know you've said that directors are an overrated position or something like that on a movie set, but
Phil Bros don't like it when I say directors don't matter.
No, but there is something to it of almost directors have a bigger pull than movie stars do nowadays. That people will go to see a movie because it's from Christopher Nolan, or because it's from Denis Villeneuve, or because it's from James Mangold, in a way that they won't because it's Mark Ruffalo is in this movie, I've got to see that, or like Robert Eggers with Nosferatu. I don't know anything about Werewolf, but I like some of the other stuff that he's done, and it's okay, Lily Rose Depp is in this, Aaron Taylor Johnson, bankable names, but it's no, but because it's Robert Eggers, I want to see it.
Once upon a time, maybe there was an era where you could talk legitimately about the new Will Smith movie or the new Tom Cruise movie, and it would mean something. The new Arnold Schwarzenegger movie. Once upon a time, that was possible. I don't think it is anymore. I really don't think it is anymore. But I winced when you mentioned Christopher Nolan. Talk about adaptations of literary classics.
Excited for it, Steve?
No, I am not. No, I am not. I mean, I watched the Ralph Fiennes movie version called The Return, about just the return of Odysseus, and it was boring. It was really, really boring. And I can't imagine this will be anything else. I haven't seen it, but I've seen bits of it, chunks of it, and the chunks are ridiculous. I'm not looking forward to it at all, not in the slightest. And I know that it will do well.
Oh yeah, it'll probably make $1 billion. Like
I know that it will do well. And my number one fear, just horrified, is that on the strength of it doing well, he will do the Iliad. Which I don't know what I will do if that happens. I don't know what I will do.
You a fan of was it the movie Troy with Brad Pitt?
You know, I know that people love to laugh at Troy. I know they do. But that talk about directors not mattering. That the writer for Troy was really, really good. He's really, really talented. His name is
Benioff?
Yeah. His name is talking forever because of Game of Thrones. But he did a really, really good job. The writing in that movie, if you tune out the rest of it, the writing is quite good. There's no way you can do the Iliad as a movie. There's no way you can do it. But there are parts of it that are really, really good. I mean, I lived long enough to see a really convincing Hollywood representation of the Greek Armada, the 1,000 ships headed to Troy. That was well done. The stupid Hollywood stuff about Brad Pitt as a super warrior, that I could take or leave, although that is accurate. But some of the scenes, you have to compress everything. You can't have no gods, and you can't have anything else. You can't stretch things out. You can't have all sorts of signature moments. But the spirit of some of the moments, I mean, Orlando Bloom is an enormous egomaniac. It must have taken some doing to convince him to play a cowardly popinjay, which is, what he is. In real life, that's what he is. And that must take some doing to force him to look in the mirror like that. I mean, when he as an actor is trying to play Prince Paris, who is a feckless, cowardly popinjay, when he is looking in the mirror or he's talking to the director and saying, well, how do I find my motivation for this? What's the director supposed to say? Pretend you're a bankable Hollywood movie star whose girlfriend was stolen right in front of him by Justin Bieber? Oops. That's good motivation for playing a pretty boy popinjay. But the scene in Troy where they decide we will settle this one man against one man, and it's Brendan Gleeson, who's like 5 feet wide as Menelaus, and when he starts to beat Orlando Bloom's character, Prince Paris, Paris runs. Mm-hmm. He runs back to Eric Bana as his brother and grabs him by the legs. Now, that scene doesn't happen in the Iliad, but it's really moving in the movie. It's really well done. When Brendan Gleeson looks up at the vultures circling and growls at Paris that they've never tasted Prince before, that's a great line. I know. Troy is renowned as being bad, but I liked parts of it.
Do you, when you're like analyzing like historical movies, how much of a weight do you put on like, did they get the details right, historical accuracy, that type of thing?
No, hardly at all. No,
okay.
That way lies madness. There's no way to do it, so I don't even bother to try. I don't like, for instance, Christopher Nolan's Odyssey movie. The helmets are all plastic and they're all from IKEA. They're all in absolutely perfect condition. These men have been at war for 10 years.
Right.
But his DP never thought to age up the armor or anything like that. No, I don't look at any of that sort of stuff. It would be just crazy to do, so I don't bother.
Yeah, as somebody who's not like, I'm no expert in history, but it interests me. I guess I have what I don't like is the I don't know how to describe it, snobbery, pedanticness of some of the people who, I understand where they're coming from, that they really care about this stuff, and I get that. But it's like, regardless of the fact that William Wallace never wore a kilt or blue war paint, like Braveheart is an amazing movie and is so much better because he's wearing blue war paint, a kilt, and they play bagpipes. I don't care if that's not in the history books.
Only thing you have to think about, does it work? Not is it accurate, but does it work? And the pedants that pick out that sort of stuff, they don't enjoy anything anyway at all. So, there's no point in calling them on it. They're just going to continue to do that sort of thing. Every once in a while, you will have a director or a writer or both who will just effortlessly incorporate accuracy, historical accuracy. They won't make a point of it. They won't rub your nose in it, but there will be no friction. If you know the period, you won't object to what you're looking at. That happens. It happens usually in older Hollywood than in modern Hollywood, but it does happen. Like Franco Zeffirelli's miniseries, Jesus of Nazareth. You've got a great director, perfectly willing to say it about Zeffirelli, a great director, a great writer, a great cast, and also the directors of photography did a really good job. It looks very much like what first century Palestine would have looked like. So, but usually not. No, usually not. So you just have to laugh at it. That's all.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I think or another one, like guys like Zack Snyder with the 300. No, I'm joking, but that's like one of those cases where it's almost laughable how intentional he is about being like, I don't care. This is just trapping.
He hyper stylizes it.
Yeah,
and that makes it perfect. Great. If you're going to do that, I don't have any objections at all, and he does. So, and it works perfectly.
Yeah.
Talk about cinematography. I don't know how much credit I give to him, but the cinematography in that movie is incredible.
Yeah.
Just amazing. So yeah, perfect example. The events didn't happen that way. It didn't look like this. None of it looked that way, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whereas to get to one of our topics, the BBC miniseries, the BBC series of Wolf Hall.
Not a fan?
Well, you can certainly hear the floorboards creak, right? I can just hear the set director saying, look, I don't care if you're off book. I don't care if you're drunk, but I want to hear the floorboards creak when people walk, because this is verisimilitude, baby. Yeah, you can certainly hear the floorboards creak.
I always thought it odd that, and I haven't watched the miniseries, but before I read Wolf Hall, I assumed that Mark Rylance was playing Thomas More, because he looks kind of like Thomas More.
Of course, you would assume that he was playing Thomas More. Of course, you would.
Yeah.
Instead, he's playing Thomas Cromwell.
Yeah.
A big, thick, hulking-shouldered bruiser. Mark Rylance, 5'1", 98 pounds. I mean, he's playing Cromwell. And why? Because when his people came to him and said, hey, you know that book Wolf Hall that everyone is reading, we're doing a show of it. And he said, oh, great, I would love to play Cromwell. And everybody that went to him went, yeah, absolutely, yay. Instead of saying, no, Mark, you're not playing Cromwell. No, you're not doing that. He would have been great as Wolsey as well. I don't know the actor that they got. His name is escaping me at the moment. Although he's great, he was great in The Two Popes. He was just fantastic in The Two Popes, opposite Anthony Hopkins. What's his name? Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Oh well, it doesn't matter. He was also great in The Crown. He played Prince Philip.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, you said Two Popes in my mind blank, but now I know the guy who plays Francis.
Hopkins told him ahead of time.
Yeah.
Before filming started, he said, when we have our confrontations, our confrontation scenes, where I am one kind of pope and you are a very different kind of pope, and I don't approve the kind of pope you would become, I'm not going to take it easy on you. I'm going to blast away at you. I want you to take that. Let's film this right, and it really worked. But completely blanking on his name. Oh,
well, and when I read
Prince Philip, they made the decision. The Crown made the decision to have their Prince Philip not be an nincompoop. He's a little bit unconventional, but he's all there, which certainly was not true in real life. But they made that decision, and I really liked it. That was a really good, respectful decision.
Well, and like I said, I haven't seen the show, so I can't speak to what the Wolf Hall show does. But when I'm reading the book, I'm picturing somebody much more like Ray Winstone as Cromwell. Kind of like, he can play a gentleman, but there's almost like a thug brewing underneath it.
The person, Ray Winstone, sure, a little bit older, a slightly older choice would be Bob Hoskins.
Oh, yeah.
Or even older than that, in the movie version of A Man for All Seasons, you have an early middle-aged Leo McKern, and all would work well. All of those would work well. I really wished that Wolf Hall had been done with no named actors at all. Just go to the Royal Shakespeare Company and use them. Just use them, so that nobody can identify any of them at all. I don't object to Claire Foy. She is great, but she's not right for Anne Boleyn. And Damian Lewis, why does anybody hire that guy? I have never understood what he must be the nicest guy in the world. Because I never understand why he continues to get work. He's just never good. He's just never good in anything. and he's Henry, for Pete's sake. You never feel frightened of him at all. You never feel a volatile sense of unpredictability. Never.
That's one thing I got from the book is like every scene with Henry is like on a knife's edge. It's like unstable. It's like what typical of a world leader, I suppose.
Yeah, and the key is that in Henry's time, that meant everything. There was a parliament, and parliament was growing in power. In Wolf Hall, periodically, Henry and Cromwell have to grouse about whether or not they can get money from parliament that they need and can't get otherwise. But there wasn't anywhere near parity. The king's word was law. And therefore that volatility means something. Whereas, like, for instance, in a much later movie, for instance, if you had like Judi Dench, Queen Victoria didn't have really any power. So that volatility is entirely personal. But with Henry, it was state as well. He was the state in an individual person's body. And Damian Lewis, no, it doesn't work at all. You'd never think that for a minute. I'm sure that if I went through the roster of British actors, I could have cast all of Wolf Hall better. Where was there? I mean, the guy whose name I'm forgetting, who plays Wolsey, does a pretty good job. But certainly a better job than the Tudors miniseries from years before. Oh my. Wolsey in the Tudor miniseries is played by Sam Neill from Jurassic Park. He's just not good. He's just nobody show was good at all. Not at all. Oh God, it was so bad. It was Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as Henry, and he is so bad in the thing. It's so bad that you almost think that it's a joke.
You don't even like Henry Cavill, stud Henry Cavill in the Tudors?
Well, nobody. I did. He had charisma on screen. He was one of the only people that did, but most of it, oh no. At the beginning of that show, they experimented a little with quasi magical realism in a couple of places, just a little. There's a scene where a court composer is standing in a kitchen, and it takes you a minute to realize he's not alive anymore. He's just a ghost standing there, and maybe quasi interacting with someone in that scene. But then he's not there anymore. You look back, and he's not there. And I remember when I watched that scene, I thought, oh, lucky you get to leave this piece of crap. I have to stay to the end. There's no way I'm gonna not watch this to the end.
What because I'm thinking about this because I'm thinking accuracy to history, but then also like movie adaptations. Do you have any particular favorite like Shakespeare movie adaptations?
Well, yeah, Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah,
he's great.
He's the man.
Except for his Hamlet, which is a train wreck. And I'm alone in that opinion. Everyone else loves it. Everyone else considers it the definitive Hamlet. Utterly ridiculous. Utterly ridiculous. Hamlet is an amazing play. There are people who say, I might even say myself, the greatest piece of stage work, the greatest play ever written by anyone at any time in any culture. I think it's closest. It might have a couple of rivals. Long Day's Journey into Night, maybe. Oedipus Rex, maybe. But Hamlet is certainly in the top 3 or 4 dramas of all time. So if you do a movie version of Hamlet, and at any point in that movie version, the watchers of that version are saying, what time is it? Then you have failed. Then you have failed. And the Branagh's Hamlet is 3 hours long. That's ridiculous. He took all the different versions of the play and included everything, all of it together. Now, but aside from that, his Much Ado and his Henry V are both magnificent. They're just absolutely magnificent. So they would be on my list, definitely. I also, of course, love Olivier's Hamlet, and the Ethan Hawke Hamlet, of course.
I've not seen that one. That one's still. I've seen Olivier. I've seen.
You've never seen Hamlet shot with CDs?
No.
CDs in a music store? No, never seen that.
No, never seen that one. I think because you mentioned him earlier, I think Franco Zeffirelli's one is the one with Mel Gibson, as I recall.
Yes. Yeah. And it's not good. It's not good. It's uneven.
Yeah, like that one.
Uneven. Okay. Probably because of Gibson. Because around that point he was starting to throw his weight around on set, and that is disastrous when you have actors doing that. Usually they don't do it when it's Shakespeare, but sometimes they do, and there's nothing you can do about it if that happens. The Ethan Hawke Hamlet, you can still, I'm sure you can find it on streaming somewhere. It's a spectacle. It's just a spectacle. There's only one good thing anywhere in it, one innovation anywhere in it that's good. When the Ethan Hawke Hamlet speaks with his father, the ghost of his father, played by the playwright Sam Shepard from the movie The Right Stuff. Talk about a movie being better than the book. Sam Shepard plays his father, and when they're having their famous scene, Ed, leave her to heaven, and at one point Sam Shepard's ghost reaches out and grabs Hamlet by the head to tell him to remove. They actually make physical contact. No other director would do that. I've never seen a director that did that. I don't agree with it, but I liked it. It definitely it wasn't a high bar to clear, but it definitely perked up the movie.
I think.
But the Branagh Hamlet ruins old King Hamlet. Just ruins it. He's telling Hamlet about what happened to him, and we're seeing flashbacks of him happy walking down the hallways of the palace, and also we see him being killed. And it's not a word picture that he's painting. We're seeing it as a flashback. Well, the vocabulary in a movie is that a flashback actually happened,
right?
And the whole point of that scene is that Hamlet doubts for a long time that this ghost is telling the truth.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
you see it in a flashback. I don't want to see the happy Hamlet family playing shuffleboard in the palace hallway. I don't want to see that. If Shakespeare had wanted me to see that, he had plenty of talent enough to show it to me.
Now, I'm sure thousands of people around my age or even a little older, Branagh's the guy who got me to love Shakespeare, and especially like Henry V.
Henry V and Much Ado About Nothing. They're both incredible. They're both amazing to do. I not a foot wrong in either one of them. Not for an instant. Not a foot wrong. And while we're talking about Shakespeare adaptations, I should also mention Baz Luhrmann's Romeo plus Juliet, which is sheer brilliance. Which nobody ever thinks that. They never think I'm going to think that because it takes so many liberties.
Yeah, it's kitschy.
It is. It's very kitschy, but I love it. Oh my God, I love it. Well, I was watching it in the theater and I was thinking, God, I wish I still taught this to students because I would show them this and we would just talk about it.
Yeah, when I was younger, I used to have Branagh doing the Crispin's Day speech. I used to have just that clip on my computer. And I don't think I still have the whole thing memorized, but I at least used to have the whole thing memorized because it just like you said, perfectly done. The music is perfect. I've always loved Branagh since then for him as an actor and as a director for what he did for Shakespeare and me. So
when I was younger, I didn't have a computer, and Kenneth Branagh had yet to be born.
Yeah, were you? Was this back in the day? Where you're like
the downer.
You're like playmates with Sir Laurence Olivier himself.
No, I agree. all of it is just pitch perfect. Yep. I once upon a time held Branagh in high esteem until he got his hands on Hercule Poirot, and now he's going to have to dig himself out of a pretty deep ditch for me to like him again.
I don't know of a single Poirot fan. I'm sure they're out there, but I have not yet met one who is a massive fan of the books who likes those movies. The only people I know who like those movies are, and I like them, but I haven't read the books. I was like, oh, these are fun mysteries, yeah. So,
what is this? What is that? What on earth? As a decision that had to be Branagh's own decision. What on earth? What on earth? So Hercule Poirot shows up in a scene, and I expect him to say, "I'll be your Huckleberry." What on earth? Talk about taking you out of the movie. Gee,
is what we call a decision.
They were moderately successful, so he keeps making them.
Yeah.
All the long line of people who've played Poirot and done such a great job with it, and then we get this.
Do you have I mean, I'm sure you've done a starter kit for mystery novels and crime novels, but are there modern day like crime novelists that you get excited when you hear about a new book coming out from them?
How modern day? Well, you say yourself that they're still publishing, and that's pretty hard. That's a pretty tough thing. Don Winslow,
okay,
is the obvious name that comes up, and I look forward to every book of his. I don't know if Lauren Esselman is still publishing books. I don't think Stuart Kaminsky is still alive. James Elroy's I think still alive and wrote great books, but I don't think he has a great book left in him. So I don't know that I'd include him. Although, boy, oh boy, on this apparently perennial subject of film adaptations of works, I think about James Elroy and L.A. Confidential, and think, the book is so good, but oh my God, the movie is so good too. There I go. That would be a tough toss up to try and pick which is which. There.
Do you like Dennis Lehane?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's right, Dennis Lehane. That's right. Yeah, I do. His last book wasn't a crime thriller at all. Not really. I mean, there was a crime plot to it, but it was mainly just a novel, and it was really, really good. So yeah, Dennis Lehane. There you go.
Yeah.
Here, oh my God, how could I have forgotten? The whole book's about South Boston. I completely forgot it.
Well, I read Shutter Island when I was in high school, and then I've just this last month read Drink Before the War. I was like, I want to get back into reading Lehane because I haven't read him in a while, and then my plan is to pick up Power of the Dog in the next couple weeks. So yeah, my first Winslow.
You say that you recently read Wolf Hall.
I did indeed.
What did you think? Do I get to ask you questions in these videos? I don't know.
Please do. Yeah, this is that's great.
Naturally, the question that I want to ask right away. We've talked about it. I have ranted about it many, many times. The stupid pronoun business. I should ask you. Did that throw you for a long time? Did it throw you into an existential crisis? Did it make you contemplate what I've heard from other people, that it made you want to quit your job, buy a cheap gun on the black market, and shoot up the nearest supermarket? I do not understand the existential problem that people have with a simple pronoun switch. But were you able to?
I cracked open page 1 and spent a week in the fetal position, unable to move, just shaking. What have you done?
For those of you who haven't read the book, occasionally, steadily throughout the book, Hilary Mantel she keeps a close narrative focus on Thomas Cromwell, Henry VIII's lawyer and chief leg breaker. It's not a first person narrative. We're never inside his thoughts except when he tells us that we are, but it's close on him and not on anybody else. So you would think that the narrative would say Cromwell did this, Cromwell did that, Cromwell did the other thing. Occasionally, Hilary Mantel will refer to him as he, instead of keeping you strictly in that focus, so that for a minute you're wondering who she's talking about. Sometimes she even has to qualify. Sometimes she has to say he, Cromwell. And the number one problem that I've had with people, the thing that breaks them, it doesn't just break them for this book. They never go back to reading. Is that simple little thing, that simple little stylistic tick. But that wasn't a problem for you.
Well, it'll be things like, a chapter will open and it'll say, he woke up in the morning and got out of bed. And there's no context as to who it is, but this is Cromwell that's being referred to. I'd say it took me about maybe 10% to get used to it. Something like that. And then after the first 10% of the book, I kind of stopped noticing it because I'd gotten used to like that. This is what she's doing. And, I don't know that I want every book to be written by that, but it was certainly interesting.
Yeah, that's all. It's just interesting. It's just a little decision on the author's part. It's not the end of the world. But I forget how much knowledge of the court of Henry VIII did you have going in?
So,
Had you seen A Man for All Seasons? Were you familiar with A Man for All Seasons?
Yes. So I'd seen A Man for All Seasons. And then I think I mentioned this to you. I was raised a good Protestant. And so I knew Martin Luther, I knew William Tyndale, John Wycliffe, a bunch of the Protestant, reformers as they're called. And so, I mean, if you know William Tyndale, there's a lot about Tyndale that is tangential to the court of King Henry VIII. That like Cardinal Wolsey like had it out for him. That like a bunch of that Anne Boleyn was like sympathetic to Tyndale, had one of his testaments. So some of that information, she'd bring it up. Like she even mentioned like Cromwell having read Tyndale's book, The Obedience of the Christian Man. I was like, hey, I know that. It paid off. I recognize what that is.
But you would assure our listeners that you don't need to know that. Right.
This is certainly like, I mean, that was a fun thing for me to pick up because I'm like myself and like a certain subset of either history nerds on this topic or people who just know it well enough to know this are going to enjoy it. But I think knowing A Man for All Seasons was helpful. I mean, obviously she pokes fun at it, and so that's fun to pick up on.
There are all sorts of little what we would call Easter eggs. I mean, I'm not saying that you won't be rewarded if you go in knowing the period. You definitely will be, but you don't need to at all.
I think that's right. And especially if, I mean, like you said, when we began, if you're on Fantasy BookTube and you're used to George Martin or Steven Erikson or what have you, dropping you into courts and figuring out the intrigue and who's with what and what, within a matter of a few pages, like you're going to be fine.
Yeah, your biggest adaptation will be learning how to deal with good prose. There goes Sam's channel. Oh no. There'll be an edit right there.
Yeah. You can just see the exodus.
That's what I'm saying. You get these old people on, you never know what you're gonna get. But yes, the Tyndale Bible and Martin Luther, these people never appear on the page. Cromwell never met them, so they never show up, but they haunt the book. That is an aspect of all three of the Cromwell books that I really appreciated, because you'd never get it. Usually in Tudor fiction, you don't get it at all, or barely mention of the gigantic upheaval in the Christian church. You get barely any of it because most Tudor fiction, by bulk, just by sheer weight lot, has been written in the last 70 years. And the last 70 years have been increasingly secular. That's right, so you can't sell a book to your readers if a huge part of it is about doctrinal disputes. And yet, you're totally writing it false if they're not in there. I think Mantell strikes a perfect balance with that.
Yeah, and you've read, I mean, obviously you've read Pillars of the Earth by Follett, and there's a lot of things about that book that I enjoyed, but one of the things that just like nagged at me in the back of my head, and I'm not saying like I need a book to preach at me or that I'm like, make sure Jesus is on every page, right, but I'm reading this and I'm like,
it's not there at all.
Right, I'm like in Pillars of the Earth, I'm like, except for maybe a couple of the monks, all of these characters feel like they were written by an atheist in the 1980s.
Right, and
sure enough,
no matter what they say, that they themselves are atheists.
Yeah. And sure enough, like Follett was an atheist in the 1980s. Like, shock.
Yeah. Whereas in Wolf Hall, the characters not only talk and think about the church and church matters, but it weighs on them. It preys on them.
Yeah.
I mean, for good or ill, I would say for ill, for millennia, it was impossible for a believing Christian to have a peaceful night's sleep, because you've got these constructions of sin preying on you, an aspect of the church over the last 1500 years that can never be written, and yet it had to be there, nagging at the minds of every Christian. And you get that sense in Wolf Hall.
You get that with Cromwell, who, when you think of Thomas Cromwell, you don't think pious religious figure. And yet that was one of the interesting things, is he has this internal battle. Like, he's like, Wolsey says this, and if that's true, like, I'm damned. There's no hope for me. But like, Tyndale says this thing, and like, I don't know how to reconcile that, but like, what if Tyndale's right about this?
Yeah.
And that conflict inside of a secular person, like, I've not read something quite like this before.
There's nothing quite like it. There's a scene in a couple of scenes but there's one scene in particular in Wolf Hall where a character is asking Cromwell, well, why are we hunting this Tyndale guy? What is in his book that can be so explosive? And Cromwell says, it's not what's in it, it's what's not in it. Purgatory, confession, priests, they're not in it. That's why we're hunting him, because of what's not in it. Because if you translate that into English, every single person at his plow or at his field is going to wonder, okay, what is all this then? Because I'm reading it and it's not there. It just explodes. And of course, there's an incredible scene in Wolf Hall where Cromwell remembers being a boy in the crowd as heretics are burned.
It's shocking.
Because they're burned to soot. They're burned to soot, to piles of soot on the ground.
Yeah.
The crowd disperses because the fun is over, and slowly, quietly, the friends and fellow heretics of the people who were burned come forward to gently and reverentially scoop up the soot. And one of the women that's doing this turns to little boy Cromwell and says the woman's name who was burned, says, remember her name. Just amazing. You don't get that. Unless the book is about that, you usually don't get that.
And once again, like, Wolf Hall is not an explicitly religious book in the sense of like, it's about these topics, in as much as these topics covered every aspect of Cromwell's life, Henry VIII's life, you know, the characters within the story.
They all knew it. They all cared about it. They all lived it. It was the air they breathed. If you leave that out to focus on the romance or the chivalry, you can have a good book. You can have an interesting book. The Other Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory almost entirely leaves this point out. And you read, I was reading it. I was reading along. I just recently reread it. It's really good, but you know, it's exactly what you say. It reads like it was written by an atheist in the 1980s, and that it shouldn't feel that way. It shouldn't feel that way. Even with Cromwell, I don't myself think that the real Thomas Cromwell had a religious bone in his body, but he would still have thought about it all the time and would have had to deal with it all the time.
It's what I don't know if this is the best term for it, but it's what I've been trying to call when an author commits to the bit. You know, when they like, all right, this is what we're doing and we're leaning into it. And, you know, everybody take a shot. Sam's going to talk about Gene Wolfe, but like in Book of the New Sun, like that's one of the things that is so off-putting to people, is that like Severian is not a very likable character for major sections of that book, but you place him in that setting. He's raised by torturers. The only women he's seen are women that have been tortured or the local prostitutes. You know, he's not raised with any sense of like what is right or wrong or morality. Guess what? The resulting character is not going to be very pleasant. And Wolfe doesn't hesitate from making him be that odious to many readers. And so people will bounce off of it. And it's like, I get that. And I can't really be like, shame on you for not liking this character. But I appreciate that Wolfe doesn't feel the need to coddle his reader or be like, all right, we're gonna make this feel nicer so that it's a bit more palatable. It's like, no, this is the setting that I'm writing in, and this setting would result in brutal and or uncomfortable characters.
Remind me, when you turn to your left, I'm sure that your precious Gene Wolfe is never more than 6 inches away from you at any time. Are we talking about mass market paperbacks, trade paperbacks?
I have
you have them in lots of formats.
Yeah, I have a omnibus hardcover, and then I have individual hardcovers of the 4 books. So, yeah, they're about 4 feet that way.
The little Timescape mass market paperbacks, I used to have those forever and ever. Used to see them in used bookstores all the time. They were still in retail bookstores.
Yeah.
And I used to press them on people. I used to say, definitely read this. And if you like the first book, you'll probably like the others. And it never occurred to me back then that they would ever be hard to find. And now they're impossible to find. I'm sure they're highway robbery on eBay. I even had the box. There was a box set of those mass market paperbacks. And I remember distinctly one hot summer afternoon, my beagles decided that they were bored and took turns destroying that box set right in front of me. Because my dogs don't have any respect for authority. They know I'm not going to do anything to them. So they tore it apart right in front of me. And I remember thinking, well, that's annoying. But the next time I have a random $7, I'll just buy another box set. I shudder to think what that box set would be worth on eBay now. But I think the same thing that in the intelligent scene setting of religion. When I was reading the Wolf Hall books, they reminded me, oddly enough, of science fiction. They reminded me of Dune. Frank Herbert does the same thing. He takes religion very seriously in the first book, and then in the second book, and then in the third book, and then the fourth book, my favorite Dune book, God Emperor of Dune, is entirely about that.
Yeah,
it's entirely about religion, and then it stops. It drops off the map. Herbert is not interested anymore. He did all that he needed to do with God Emperor, but it's amazing.
Book 5 is called Heretics. Like, you'd think you deal with it in a book called Heretics of Dune.
Nope, they are heretics in the book. They are heretics to the purely secular power of the Bene Gesserit. They're not heretics in any meaningful sense of the word. There are heretics in the meaningful sense of the word in God Emperor. And God Emperor blurs the lines because the character Leto II, who is the God Emperor and has been around for thousands of years, knows perfectly well he's not a god.
Yeah, he
knows that. But he has a religion that's entirely built around him, and he also knows where everyone's going to be at every moment in the future, which is pretty godlike. And he deals with that too. He maximizes that too. It's just amazing to see. I love that book. I dread it being adapted into a movie. Oh my god, I dread that. I just
big Denis Villeneuve Dune fan, right, Steve?
I wish that he had filmed them in color. Imagine the possibilities. but I also wish that. I mean, I am totally in the minority when it comes to those movies. I think they're largely dreadful, and nobody thinks that. So I don't know what to do about that. So I just dread that. I mean, they made a steamroller of money. So I don't think there's any chance that there won't be at least children of Dune. But then I think, oh my God, you're not going to do God Emperor, are you? You're not going to have Timothée Chalamet's face on a CGI sandworm. I dread thinking about it. It cannot be done. I don't think it can be done.
Steve's just standing there like Marlon Brando in The Godfather. Look what they did to my boy.
Well, actually, not meaning any disrespect to the dead, but at the very end of his life, Marlon Brando wouldn't have needed any kind of CGI to be the God Emperor. He actually did look like he was transforming into a sandworm, and he retained talent all the way to the end. So yeah, maybe. But, it's not like I'm not bashing Timothée Chalamet. I loved Marty Supreme. I thought it was a terrific movie, a terrific performance. But Denis Villeneuve's Dune movies are so ponderous. They're religious observations in themselves. It just entertaining. And the Dune books are.
Yeah. Well, a fellow booktuber was in the movie Marty Supreme.
What?
Yeah, do you know the booktuber Chance Dillon?
Yes.
Yeah, he was an extra in Marty Supreme for about 2 seconds.
Oh my God. I did not know that. Was he a butt double?
He may have been. I don't know. I'll have to have him send me a screenshot of exactly where he is.
I don't get those calls anymore. To be a butt double for anybody. No, I haven't seen screeners for many movies this year that I have really liked. The Sheep Detectives, I loved. Oh my God, I loved it. It is great. It is such a feel-good movie. It has heart, but it is such a feel-good movie. People are going to love it. Wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a kind of minor classic like Babe. I wouldn't be surprised about that at all if that happened. But a lot of the rest of it, I was happy about something like March Supreme. But talking about slightly religious elements in fiction, what about Orson Scott Card, Alvin Maker?
Yeah. So
you a recent read of yours as well, is that right?
So in December, I finished up Shadows Upon Time, so Christopher Rucchio's Last Sun Eater book. And then I was like, man, I have a bit of space in my December reading. What do I pick up? And I was like, Steve was telling me about Seventh Son. And I haven't heard many other people talk about it. I have one other friend who read it and said I should read it. But I was like, no, I'll pick it up. And I read that all the way to book 6 in one go.
Wow.
No breaks, no other books. I've not had that happen with a book series in a minute. But I adored those books. And apparently that's, I don't know. I got some pushback from some people who were like, "Oh, book 2 sucks," or and I know people don't like Orson Scott Card, and I get that, but like
that's another thing, is that you have to deal with Orson Scott Card. I think you should deal with it very expeditiously and say, well, I wasn't dating him; I was reading his books.
That's right. It's like if you read, like we were talking about movies, like Roman Polanski. Good movies can be made by very bad people, yes. And I can like a piece of art, whether it's Robert De Niro or Clint Eastwood. I can appreciate a piece of art without needing to agree with all the stances, personal stances of a person. I
mean, you have horrible people who are directors, and they can still make good movies. Now, that didn't happen in Roman Polanski's case, and it didn't happen in Woody Allen's case either. Neither one of us ever made a good movie, but still, it could theoretically happen.
But with the
directors don't matter. But anyway, for those of you who might not know the series, the Alvin Maker series takes place in an alternate mythological version of colonial America. So we're talking about hundreds of years ago. There is no advanced technology, but history didn't happen quite the way it did in the real world. The North American continent is still a balkanized set of kingdoms and principalities that are generally ruled by faraway kingdoms in Europe. But that's not the only difference. The major difference is that there's a kind of hedge magic, a kind of folk magic that is worked into the very nature of the world. People have knacks. Almost everyone has a knack of some kind or other. Some stronger than others, some more pronounced than others. And there isn't an infinite number of them, but there are a lot of them. And that is just worked into the story. What is your knack? Some people have them. Some people largely don't. Like, for instance, you could have a knack of being a torch, which means that you can far sense. You can throw your senses into a place where your eyes can't see. So, for instance, if you were, as one of the characters in the series, if you were a young woman who was a torch, you would be very helpful as a midwife. Mm-hmm. For animals or for humans, you would be able to see the fetus. You'd be able to make a smooth delivery. If you were a firebug, well, then your knack would be that you could start fires. You could heat things up or even cause them to burst into flame, etc., etc., etc. And the mythology in Orson Scott Card's world is that the seventh son of a seventh son will have all the knacks at the same time, will be a maker. And in the Alvin Maker books, it is stated a few times, very daring on Orson Scott Card's part of all people, that Jesus was a maker, that this folk magic goes all the way back in time. And the main character, Alvin, is the seventh son of a seventh son, just barely.
That's right.
In the first book, he just barely becomes the seventh son of a seventh son and is a maker and slowly has to figure out what that means. I didn't know that people don't like the second book, Red Prophet.
Oh, I had a friend. It was Richard from Two to Ramble. He said it was his least favorite book he'd ever read, which I said, all right, Richard, yeah, that's I didn't feel like arguing about it, but I'm like, of all the books,
I've never known about him. He's always been my number one candidate for the Zodiac killer. Always. I mean, it's staring you right in the face. Oh my God. This is also a little informal tradition on these little chats that we have, is that we vilify some pillar of fantasy. Last time Philip Chase got it in the face.
That's right.
Ramble. Oh my God. Nobody's safe.
No, I like, he explained his reasons. He said he felt like,
I should stress, I don't think he was the Zodiac killer.
Yes.
Although,
I believe he said he felt like, oops, sorry, what?
You never know. Any sign. We did too much conspiracy talking before we started recording. I think that's
right. That's right. No, I think he said that it got too in the weeds of like philosophizing, and I think he said he didn't like that it followed mostly different characters and felt like some of the characters had changed and were fundamentally different than who they were in the first book. And that's why I didn't have a problem with it. Red Prophet is not my favorite book in the series. That's probably the third book.
It is great,
but I thought it was fine.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
And I understand. I mean, we learn a lot more about the green. We learn a lot more about Red Indians.
Yeah.
We learn a lot more about them in Red Prophet. We learn that they do not have knacks. They are living knacks. They live in the world of earth magic. They live in that world. They are part of it. So they don't even really understand what white people mean by knacks. It's a very neat homage to the elves in Tolkien, who do not understand magic. When Sam,
that's right, yeah,
elven magic, they don't know what he's talking about. Not because they have a different word for it, but because they are it. So they don't know how to separate it. And the same thing is true of the Red Indians in the Elven Maker books. They are part of it. And you get two main Red Indians in this book. You have Tenskwatawa and his brother Tecumseh, who is famous. I mean, Tecumseh is famous, and he's wonderfully portrayed.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, especially since you said the comparison to Tolkien's elves, like just like Tolkien's elves, like they leave, not all of America, but like the main area where the story is set, that's a big turning point out at one point in the series, is that they leave that area.
Yeah.
Which I never put that together.
I think I'm a huge fan of the first three books. I think after that they get a little bloated. They don't have quite the same narrative fire for me, and I think I know the reason why. You might not agree but I mean, they're still wonderful to read. But I think I know why they suddenly start to be so concerned with dotting the I's and crossing the T's. After the third book, Orson Scott Card was one of the very first writers to actively involve with his fan base in the writing and plotting and details of his book. The very thing that killed A Song of Ice and Fire. That is the reason why we will never get the final book in that series, because because George R.R. Martin started reading what everyone was positing about his book. And Orson Scott Card did the same thing. He had basically what we would now call a chat room called Hat Rack River, where people were just talking about the books. And he didn't stop writing, but I think there's a distinct tonal change between after the third book. It really starts to feel almost like a collaboration after that, to the detriment of the series.
The third book certainly is the end of an arc, where like the first book literally begins with Alvin being born, and then the third book sort of ends with him like becoming a man, and then the next three, I liked them. I thought they were fun. I surprisingly really liked book 5, Heartfire, a lot. Really? Yeah, and I don't think that's a popular take for those who read the Alvin Maker books.
I should reread it. I should definitely reread the later books, especially since the last one is coming out.
That was the other reason why I blitzed through them. I'm like, these are awesome. I'm loving them, and another one's coming out. So I was like,
all throughout the first three books, you have a young Alvin coming to terms with the ethics of what he can do.
That's right. Yeah.
So a little boy who's annoyed at his sister, what would you do? If you're a little boy who's annoyed with your sister, you might drop a toad in her bed. Well, what if you could command all the insects in the house to converge on her room? what if you could do that? If you're a little boy, will you not do it? Will you understand the ethics involved? Will you understand that you have sent all those insects to their death because she's going to stomp them to death? What if later on you meet someone who has a twisted leg and has to limp? Well, do you fix that leg? Do you fix it without their permission? Do you think at all about what that will do to them if you do?
Yeah.
You've got all these ethical dilemmas building and building, and then in the third book you get to the ethical dilemma that everybody, by the time I got to the third book, I was wondering about it myself. Well, if Alvin is a maker, can he create life?
Mm-hmm.
And you see gradually as you're reading that he starts to wonder about that too.
That's right. Yep.
Starts to feel, okay, well, if I send my senses below the surface of something, then there are all these little things all moving around and bumping into each other. And some of them don't move in this way, and some of them move in that other way. What if I were to change that? Could I make a thing suddenly go in a different way? And he makes the no-go plow, which is alive. It can't do anything with its life. It can't move on its own. It can't speak or anything, but it is alive.
Yeah.
Just an amazing thing. That is just an amazing thing. And it's also interior. You know, it's not, there is an exterior drama there in the books. There is a kind of a devil figure that hates Alvin, but most of his discoveries are internal. I love it. I think it's fantastic.
Well, and this is one thing. So people, and I think there's a lot that could be said about this, but every couple of years you get either articles or you'll get booktube videos where people will put out something along the lines of like fantasy's problematic history with glorifying violence, you know. And, you know, that's a discussion to be had, I suppose. But that's one of the interesting things about the Alvin Maker books is that it is entirely, like, it's not that there's no action. It's not that there's not adventure. It's not that, you know, nobody throws a punch in them. But the main hero's motivation is not, is he going to wipe out the evil army? Is he going to slay the sorcerer? Is he going to, you know, defeat the dragon? Like, his quest is not one about, like, is he going to overcome the evil thing by stabbing or punching? You know, it's really about, like, can he heal people? Can he help people? Can he help them aspire to be better than they are? Can he make, you know, a brighter future? That's the whole metaphor of the crystal city that becomes real.
Not necessarily with just his superpowers. Can he make things better just on himself? That great scene where a black character is trudging through the snow to the general store and is denied service because he's black. Nothing supernatural going on there. Alvin is right there. He has every knack in the world. He could do anything he wanted. In a dumb fantasy, he would. Instead, he's just ashamed. He's ashamed on the part of the shopkeeper who was an old friend of his. And that's it. That's all the scene. There's no fantasy in it at all. It's just, it's recognizable from the real world. And violence is not, it's not elevated at all. I think of the scene where Alvin meets another legendary figure out of colonial mythology, Mike Fink.
That's right.
The toughest man on the river, who wrestles alligators and drinks fire and whatnot. And in Orson Scott Card's telling, Mike Fink has magic working for him. He has a tattoo that prevents him from harm. And Alvin senses it right away. Of course, he's not going to back down from a fight. He doesn't want to fight Mike Fink, but he senses the tattoo right away and uses his ability to dissolve the ink. It's suddenly not there anymore, and Mike Fink can't rely on it. And what's the lesson? Not what a badass Alvin is, but how cowardly cheaters are. Mike Fink starts wailing like a baby when he's suddenly hurt for the first time in his life.
That's right. Yeah.
It totally, any fantasy novelist that I know of would have handled that scene differently. Instead,
that's what, like, I don't mean to bang the drum again, but it's like, I've not read anything quite like this before. Like, this is, and maybe that's me being a new reader. I'm fully willing to admit that. But like, I was just, I was hooked by it and just loved it.
I don't think it's you being a new reader. I've read 15 more books than you have. And I've never seen anything like it either. So I don't think it's you being a new reader at all. It's just wonderful in terms of what we now, mechanistically refer to as a magic system. I love how that is largely not an aspect of this book. When Alvin looks deep inside a physical object, it is clear he doesn't have the vocabulary, and Orson Scott Card doesn't give him the vocabulary, but it's obviously he's looking at atoms. not magic. This is something else. It's not magic. I'm so glad you're a fan. That's wonderful. I'll have to get you a copy of the final book.
I'm excitedly awaiting it. It went from being a book where it was like, oh, Orson Scott Card hasn't written an entry in this series in like decades. Okay, that's interesting, to being like, this is my number one anticipated book this
well, especially
year.
Since the ending is foreshadowed all over the books. The Crystal City that he is destined to build, is foreshadowed all throughout the series. So, it's kind of natural. I'm glad that he did it. I've read other series of science fiction and fantasy that also promised those sorts of things, and then the writer either lost interest or croaked. So we never do get a conclusion. Like A Song of Ice and Fire, although the dude bros, the fantasy dudes don't like me to say that that's never going to be finished. They don't like to hear that.
And with a series like Alvin Maker, especially set in the time and place that it is in America, and like there's some uncomfortable things that you kind of expect Card to shy away from or look the other way. And the opening to book 3 was one of the most shocking things I read last year, which is dealing with the slave plantation that with a slave owner who's essentially visited by the devil and says, it's time to start breeding out all of your slaves, and proceeds to do so, or at least attempt to do so. And it's shocking, not because it's like, oh, well, I can't believe that happened in history. Like, no, I'm obviously aware of that, but is that the series had been largely PG up to that point.
Yeah.
And then book 3 opens, and it's like, we're ripping the Band-Aid off, and it is shocking how dark it is out of the gate in comparison to what you've read up to that point.
Yeah, and very interesting too, the parallel sorts of magic that Orson Scott Card gives to slaves.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Yeah. Yep.
Not actually have knacks. They have something else, but it's not quite that. And I would not have thought, if I'd been writing this book, I would not have thought to separate them in that way. I love it. I love how it's done. I love also that Napoleon Bonaparte's knack is that he can make other people agree with him.
That's right. Yeah.
I had that knack myself.
Well, and that's part of the in-world explanation for why different people groups have different knacks, and why specifically there's so much of that in America, is that they're being filtered out in Europe. So the less desirables who are being persecuted, or like the Irish, are being sent over to the New World. And so the New World is just like popping at the brims with magic and magical people, like, because of that.
But so when we're talking about series like this that you burn right through, could you remind me, have you ever read The Emberverse by S.M. Sterling?
I've not.
I've talked about it a million times on my channel, but you've never read it? No. Okay. Also a very interesting take, in that it's an ongoing science fiction series that has no science fiction in it. It's kind of odd. It does work, but it's kind of odd.
Do you have... I am curious, because the other part that made the Maker experience so interesting is, just like everyone, I read Ender's Game when I was like, I say like everyone my age who is a reader. I read Ender's Game when I was, a kid, and never really thought, I'm like, okay, I guess Card has written dozens of other books, but whatever. And then this is the first time that he ever really got back on my radar. Has he written other stuff that you like as much as this, or anything else that you think is really excellent, or is this kind of the best in your mind?
Well, the Ender books are really good. The second Ender book is, I would argue, just as good as Ender's Game, but usually, no, not really. He tries all sorts of things, and he's never unreadable. He's always interesting to read. But this was a fan favorite for a reason, right? That when The Seventh Son came out, he was already a fairly well-known author, and fans had plenty of other things they could have championed. They love this. This is just a winning thing. It's just a winning idea. Some writers get them. It's just, although when I was a kid, Seventh Son hadn't been written yet.
That's why I had to qualify it.
We're gonna hit that note a few times, aren't we?
I'm sorry. I do have his Homecoming books. Those looked interesting, so I have them lined up. But we'll see.
There'll be a come down after this, definitely. Okay. I dread the final book. You don't want. I think almost it's a mercy to have like a Song of Ice and Fire that doesn't actually end. I think that's actually a mercy in some cases, because you worry that the author's going to drop the ball. And I do. Orson Scott Card is not a young man. And it's been a long time since he wrote in this world. So, you know, I'm really eager for the book. Of course, everybody who's a fan of the series is eager for the book. But what if it's terrible?
Yeah.
He knows perfectly well that every time his name comes up with science fiction and fantasy fans, there has to be the discussion about Orson Scott Card. Well, who's to say that hasn't embittered him?
Sure. Yeah.
So what if that's in the book? Oh, that would be awful.
Well, it's almost like, I don't know, and you know, not to bring the mood of it down, of the conversation down, but
well, we already mentioned to ramble, so we don't go up from there. I wasn't going to vilify people, was I? Oh no.
I was gonna say, Neil Gaiman recently resurfaced on his Instagram. And, you know, did the usual thing that people in his circumstance do. And, you know, all right, guess he gets his day in court just like everyone. But one of the things that he said in his statement was that he's writing, and that he's writing a book that's longer than, you know, probably maybe even longer than American Gods or something like that. And almost out of morbid curiosity, I'm like, I have no idea what that book would even be like when you're when the tables have turned and almost all your fans have turned on you. Like, what do you even write at that point?
Yeah, so it's impossible to believe that controversy won't be in the book.
No.
I myself would think that the controversy would be the book. But I mean, you're right. Everybody gets their day in court, and you think about something like that happening to you, you would be outraged, especially if, as he says, there's no truth to it at all. But he has always prided himself, since the days when he was writing Sandman and had 6-page long letter pages at the back of every issue, with long philosophical and literary discussions with random people that wrote in letters. From the beginning, he has prided himself on having a personal community where nuanced, intelligent, in-depth conversations about anything were the norm. Where if a complicated subject comes up, we're going to talk about it. And so I've never been a huge fan of the man, but to come out with a statement after all this time and all that's been said, and all that's been said by other people, by people who claim to be survivors, to come out with a statement saying, no, it's all false, there's nothing to it, move on. Just, even if it's all false, even if you're outraged that your fans could turn on you like this, it still deserves more nuance than what you give it, than what he gave it in that. I'm not a fan of the man. I'm not a fan of his writing, but his statement, his recent statement about this controversy, was the only time where I wished he had written 6 pages. It deserves it. It deserves it, even if there's no truth to it.
Yeah, you
could still have been more compassionate. Than, I mean, it must be tough. Maybe not everybody has that in them, but still, my main question wasn't what is that book going to be. It was who's going to publish it.
Oh yeah. Like, seriously, like, I mean, I know self-publishing is a bigger thing, but I mean,
he'd have to do it. Any publisher that publishes would be picking it out of existence.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a good idea for him anyway. After Brandon Sanderson, I don't know why any name recognition fantasy author would ever publish indie. I don't know why they would do it.
You take like a fairly, like, this is a great question, Stephen. I'm not even like, you take a fairly popular at the moment, like, science fiction or fantasy author who's doing perfectly well traditionally publishing, like, and I say this flippantly as though it's easy to write a book, like, I get it, but you take somebody like a John Gwynne, or even, like, you know, we mentioned him, Christopher Rocchio, and be like, hey guys, I'm publishing with Da or with Orbit or whoever, but I've also been working on this one novel with 3 novellas that go along with it on the side that I have no commitments with, and we're going to do a Kickstarter, and we'll do special editions and all the bells and whistles, and all of that is profit. You already have enough of, like, a base so that you know people will buy it. You have the people around you that you know you can be like, hey, would you help me edit this? Would you help me proofread? Like, you can pay for a cover out of your own pocket.
You wouldn't have to. Your fans would supply you with covers. I don't know why everybody doesn't do this. I really don't. I don't know why everybody doesn't do this. If Christopher Rocchio announced tomorrow, I've always wanted to write a 500-page prequel to the Sun Eater books.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not under contract for such a prequel with my publisher. So I just want to start a Kickstarter about it. He would raise $30 million in one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's not getting $30 million from his publisher.
No.
Not for all of his books put together, not in his whole lifetime.
Yeah.
He would raise that money in one day.
So maybe I'm missing something. Like, and
Why doesn't he do it? I have no idea. His publisher doesn't have copyright claim to his ideas.
Yeah.
He could write a prequel and raise $30 million in a day. John Gwynne could do the same thing. What if he did? You know, I've got another Faith in the Fallen book that's always been knocking around in my head. It's about 700 pages long. But the thing is, I'm under contract for another book with my publisher, and I've got a working farm and a family and a whole bunch of other stuff to do. So I would really need a cushion of money. For God's sake, he'd have a personal fortune in a day. I don't get it. I don't know why these people don't do it. And when, you know, there are other names that we could mention. It's not just these two.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you name it. We mentioned Don Winslow.
Mm-hmm.
And he could do that. Joe Abercrombie could do that.
Think of Stephen King, who puts out like a book every quarter, you know? Like
Stephen King's probably a dinosaur enough to have really good personal relationships with a whole bunch of editors and publishers.
Sure.
I mean, I don't know that for sure, because certainly he has a history of leaving publishers who don't give him whatever exorbitant demand that he has and taking his business elsewhere. But there might be personal stuff involved there. I have no idea, but it shouldn't excuse things. I don't get it. I thought surely when Brandon Sanderson raised the GDP of a small country, I thought sure that was going to change the program completely. I really did. Forever. For major name authors, I thought that would change everything, and it didn't change anything.
Yeah. We even think of somebody who's not an author but is writing. Like, you know, Mr. Beast has this novel that he's working on with is it Patterson that he's writing this novel with? It's like, why in the world? Is it just for the clout of like, oh, well, we're being published by like Simon and Schuster or whoever?
You know, that might be it. It might be just that people just never lose the romantic idea of walking into a bookstore and seeing your book. But Mr. Beast doesn't leave his compound ever. So he doesn't walk into bookstores. What is he going to do? Is he going to walk into a bookstore and act like a normal person? He's a lizard person.
When statistically speaking, nobody else walks into bookstores either. Like, you know, so I understand that appeal, but
people might want that. I don't know. I mean, I have as romantic a heart as anyone. But if you told me I have two choices here, on the one hand, that wonderful thrill of walking into a Walden Books. Oh, Walden Books don't exist anymore. Oh, it was some bookstore. Walk into some bookstore and see your book sitting right there and say, hey, I wrote that. And on the other hand, $40 million. I know what I would choose. I guess maybe I'm just wired different. I know which of those I would choose.
Yeah. And
I don't see why more people don't do it. I don't get that. Even Orson Scott Card. The fans of the Hat Rack River books, the fans of the Alvin Maker books would have certainly paid more for this final book than his publisher paid him. Certainly, that would be true.
So this is the inevitable question. When are we going to get a Kickstarter from Steve Donoghue?
Well, it wouldn't need to be one.
There's many legendary novels that we've heard of that have not seen the light of day.
If I were going to have a Kickstarter, it would be for something that I would want to write now, I have a gigantic pile of stuff that I've already written. That doesn't require a Kickstarter of any kind to do. All it requires is, you know, for me to want to publish it and find some person to take care of all the practical stuff. But that's the thing. There's a difference between me and a lot of these working authors, is that I have a gigantic mountain of writing that's already done. Because I'm staring at the big 3-0. So I've been around for a while. So there's tons of novels, some more publishable than others. My novel of the Trojan War, Troy War, is probably not publishable because it's fairly grotesque. I made a point of saying that when I got to the battle scenes, I would be more grotesque than Homer. And Homer's pretty grotesque in his battle scenes. But some of them are all of that is out there. I wouldn't do that for a Kickstarter. A Kickstarter would be something new, where I have an idea and I want to retire from the box factory and just do it from scratch. And I don't know what that idea would be. I really don't. I'd like to think an epic story either set about the Tudors or set about Venice.
See,
Something
so
like
if we see instead of Wolf Hall, Coyote Hall by Steve Donoghue, then
well,
we'll know
no,
what he was
actually,
doing.
I actually have a focus for what it would be very different from Wolf Hall. I have a focus though, and I know the working title and all about the book.
Oh, wow.
There was a minor figure in the Tudor era, a very minor figure. That would be the whole point. Whose name, believe it or not, was Lord Who, H-O-O, and the name of the book would simply be H-O-O. It wouldn't be Ye Olden Times or anything like that. It wouldn't be anything evocative at all. Just be Who, and it would be him. It's just an ordinary guy in the Tudor court, not anyone big. The big people would all come and go across the stage, but it would just be this ordinary guy. But that would be a Kickstarter. That would be where I put it forward and say, now I'm raising money for this, and that would not get any votes. I've actually done informal votes on this before, and by far the number one project that people would pay for is my autobiography, Odd Dog. By far, 50 to 1. If I did a running, that's what it would be. That's what people would want to see. 1,000.
We have to hear about your childhood with Vlad the Impaler and Laurence Olivier and all these great stories.
I mean, this is a thing that you and I have in common, and a whole bunch of people who are watching us have in common, is that if I were to write a book like that, if you were to write a book like that, any of us, sooner or later, we would get to a chapter called BookTube.
That's right, yeah.
Where we all have to write about this weird thing that we're doing that is giving us experiences that no one has had before us in this situation. Private readers have never been recognized on the street. They've never collaborated with each other. They've never had a fan base forming parasocial relationships with them. That's never happened before.
Well, and I bring this up not to puff up myself. Like Steve, in terms of YouTube subscribers, I'm a minuscule channel, so I don't bring this up to say anything to brag on myself. But I got the privilege to go to the Sun Eater Gala, the big release party that Christopher Accio did for his 7th book, and I'm like, thanks everybody watching this, but it's weird. I've never said this on one of my videos. I had probably 12 different people come up and be like, "Hey Sam, I watched your videos. You got me to read Book of the New Sun. Thank you so much." And nothing in my life had prepared me for that type of reaction where it's like, "Hey, what's your name? I know nothing about you. You may have watched me for minutes or hours or whatever. And I have no context to start relating or talking with you. So what do you like to read? Where are you from?
To all of us, this thing that we're all going to have to write about in our memoirs. I say this to people, to friends of mine all the time, that this is the strangest thing in the world. Yeah. The strangest thing in the world. And the rest of the world won't get it. And it's happening to us. I have people recognize me on the street, where they say, "Hey, I know who you are." That's not supposed to happen to book critics. This is supposed to happen to ordinary people. I've had people say to me, "Hey, I know who you are," and then rattle off a dozen accurate details about my dog, about little Frida, because they have grown up with her. They remember when she was a little puppy. They know all about her, and I don't know anything about them. I have said, I've told this before to Sarah at Reading Category Romances. I told her once that if we put out flyers and notices online for the biggest auditorium in Ottawa or Calgary or Seattle, if we put out flyers and headlined, "Here are the people they're all going to come out on stage together and they're all going to talk books for 2 hours," we would sell the place out. Mm-hmm. And we're
Steve Donoghue and Jack Edwards.
just imagine it. If that bill had Tudor Ramble, Philip Chase, Criminale, Michael K. Vaughan, me, you, if it went down to 20 names, and that's how we advertise it. We're going to be here. It's 2 months from now. The tickets are very cheap. It's a huge auditorium. We'd like to fill it. We're just going to talk books all night long. We would fill the auditorium.
Yeah.
Well, none of us saw that coming.
No.
That is just so weird. It's almost a kind of celebrity.
Yeah.
I've had people approach me and say, "You got me through high school. You did." Because I felt like a freak and a weirdo. I felt totally isolated from everyone. I had no idea that this kind of enthusiasm about reading existed in the world. I found you, and there you are. Sorry, I don't mean to go on and on like this. I'm just saying, when all of us write our memoirs, we're going to need a chapter about book 2, about this weird thing we're all doing. We've all got our heads down below the parapet. You know, you're thinking about your next video. Maybe you're thinking about your equipment. Maybe you're wondering about a collaboration or a buddy read or something. We're all doing that day to day, and we lose sight of the fact that we're doing this for an audience that we've never met.
Yeah.
And they have all sorts of ideas and theories. Reddit has already firmly stated that Britta Bola and I are married. You should have seen the thread. They were so sure. Oh, you can see it plain as day. It's obvious. I had to apologize to her. I'm sorry that they think it's obvious that you would stoop so low. Also, other theories too that I have encountered, that I've heard on Reddit and 4chan. People just, sorry, I don't mean to go on and on like this. It's just worth remembering sometimes that we are appearing on people's screens as figures that they visit with.
Well, and there's,
I want to read someone write about it.
Yeah. It's a weird feeling too, because there are certain booktubers or content creators that I watch a lot, personalities on YouTube that I watch where I almost don't want to reach out to them and become friends with them.
Yeah.
And that's a weird thing to say, because there's folks like your lovely self, and I just had tea from an erudite adventure on, and I've gotten the pleasure to talk with Jimmy Nuts and Tudor Ramble guys, and some of my favorite people to watch on BookTube.
You're running through a rogues gallery, aren't you?
But there's some people that I look at and I'm like, man, I almost don't want to reach out to them because I like watching their stuff so much, and I don't want that part of the relationship to change when they inevitably don't like me, as I'm sure they, as I'm convinced they won't, and I don't know, maybe that's just pride. It may be, but it is interesting.
Whenever I have a young guest over here for Wine and Calzones, and I happily, laughingly mention, the saying was never meet your heroes, my guests always resignedly reach for the wine. Like they're numbing something or other. So I don't know exactly if I'm the person to talk to about that. I know that they come out of their week here looking older than when they went in.
And with a few more books in their bag.
I just think it's a fascinating subject. That's all. You said it. Someone walks up to you and says, "You've had a profound effect on me," and your very first thought is, "I don't know anything about you. I don't know anything about you. And yet I've had a profound effect on you."
Yeah.
I think that's fascinating. Just fascinating. I would love to do, for instance, talk about a Kickstarter. I would love to do an oral history book where I just interview 100 people about this experience and make it into a book. But I can't do that because I'm hated. I'm an outcast, a leper, a pariah. Nobody would answer if I did that.
Well, and
Jimmy Nuts could do a great job with that.
Hey, that's right. That's right. And I don't mean to stand on a soapbox or preach, but I guess just to personally say something about how it's affected me. I'm pretty solidly and I've talked about this on my channel before, but I'm pretty solidly an anti-nihilist, or don't buy nihilism, which would make sense, Christian guy, all that checks out, right?
Well, it's also cowardly, and you're not a coward. It's cowardly to be nihilist. You're not a coward, so it's also boring, and you're not boring. So yeah, but go ahead. Sorry.
But just to say, I'll get even more personal about it. I believe really deeply, sincerely that every at least in theory, and I'm not saying I always practice this, you know, when I get angry or when I have bad days, but like that every person matters and really does. I know, heroic of me to say it, but it's like, you know, I'm the father of a toddler, and he got sick a few months ago, and I haven't experienced many things that are worse than holding him in the middle of the night as he's crying because he's in pain, and there's no medicine that's going to help him. There's nothing, because he's so little, you can't give him painkillers. And it's like, man, like, this is not a theory. This is not like a clump of cells. This is not like a bag of meat. That, like, this actually matters, that he's feeling this and experiencing this. And it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget, at least for me, that the people around me, you know, because like I said, I have an ego, I have pride, and so it's easy to be like, oh, well, you know, I'm the most important person in the world, and you know, if somebody cuts me off in traffic, well, like, screw them or whatever. But being on BookTube and meeting people who've said, hey, something that you did affected me positively, and I wasn't even trying to affect them positively. I thought I was just yakking at a camera because I thought it was interesting. And it's like, oh no, actually, what I do. So to take all those scattered thoughts, to tie it in, what I do actually matters and actually has a profound impact on people, whether I realize it or not. And rather than that being like an ego stroking thing, for me, at least, it should be very humbling and a little scary too, you know, of like something about like, watch out for idle words that you speak because you'll have to give an account for them, you know,
well, I'm well known for my humility. Well, I'm synonymous with humility. So I know exactly what you mean.
So sorry, I don't mean to preach, but it came to mind. So that's
no, that was fascinating. And also, you blushed a little, which, you know, since my rhesus monkey transplant heart, I haven't been able to blush. So, all very charming and absolutely true. Once, I mean, what you're talking about is, there are many things. Oh my God, you opened up a whole million avenues there. But one that we can pursue is that, yeah, it is a little bit of a responsibility. I mean, I'm the first person, I always say that BookTube videos are conversations. But people, I mean, I'm not the only one who's received messages from people saying, you know, last year or 2 years ago, I was having a really hard year and I wouldn't have got through it without you. And I didn't know anything about that. I didn't know that was happening. I put out the call for people to email me all the time, but a lot of people don't. They just don't do it. So it's amazing. I wish that Jimmy would get to work on that oral history, because this is a phenomenon, and who knows how long it's going to last, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows how long it's going to last? I've been making dire predictions for 8 years about the fate of BookTube, and none of them have happened because nobody cares enough about books to even bother to screw this up. That's how bad it is. That's the thing that's saving us, is that nobody cares about books.
Yeah.
Even to reach a hand in and ruin it. They don't even want to bother with that. So we still get to do all this.
Well, that's just it, right? Is that there's a certain threshold of being able to hold your attention for a long period of time when you're reading a book, being able to, if you're on BookTube, presumably you want to be in some sort of a discussion about it. And so there's a certain threshold of entry there for something like BookTube that video games, talking about movies on YouTube, stuff that I mean, you couldn't pay me to do those things, you know, for how much of a cesspool that can turn into really quickly. And I'm pretty blessed to be in a part of the internet that, for the most part, has been very, I mean, everybody gets mean comments once in a while, but like, certainly not the vast majority, you know. I mean, it's maybe once a month, you know.
Instead, the vast majority is what we're all doing.
Yeah.
Talking with each other, bouncing ideas off each other, even when you don't intend to. I will watch a video from somebody who doesn't know that I even exist, or maybe they know I exist because I'm kind of inevitable. I'm Thanos. I'm inevitable on BookTube, but nothing more than that. They certainly don't like me because I'm, as I mentioned, an outcast, a leper, a pariah. But they'll mention a book, and it'll set a little pebble off, and I'll think, oh wait, well, whether they like me or not, that reminds me that I've been meaning to go back to that book, or the way they described it makes me want to try it. We're all having those effects on each other. Everybody's always coming up with ideas to collaborate with each other or reach out. Certainly looks like fun to all of you who like each other.
Well, Steve, I have at least one last question for you before we land the plane.
Oh yeah, we can't end on my sour grapes.
I know. That's all right.
Grandpa Simpson waving his fist at me.
So, last time you really pitched Wolf Hall, and then also the Alvin Maker books, and that was 7 books of success. So your record's pretty good so far. So I guess, like, whether historical fiction or otherwise, do you have a book that you're like, this sounds like a Sam book and he should read it in the next few months?
Oh my, lots. And not just books either. For instance, I didn't quite gauge the response. Have you actually seen Zeffirelli's Jesus of Nazareth?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God. Talk about a recommendation. Oh my God. I strongly recommend that you find it, buy the DVD, or find out where it's streaming and watch the whole thing. Oh my God, are you going to love it? Oh.
Okay.
I cannot. I mean, every guest who comes over here gets subjected to at least a dozen scenes from it, but you're going to watch the whole thing. That certainly is a recommendation. I could certainly recommend that. But what about, like, for instance, the Dune novels? I've already mentioned them. Have you read anything more than just Dune? Or have you ever read
4?
You have. Okay.
Okay.
And what about the Emberverse by S.M. Sterling?
Dies
the Fire. The first one is Dies the Fire.
Dies the Fire.
I think you would really like that. They're really good.
All right.
The first 6 or so, at least, I think you would really like, or all the way up to A Meeting at Corvallis. If you're gonna just start with those, that is kind of an arc.
Okay. Mike Havel and the Bear Killer outfit.
Yes, because nice. the premise is that everybody's going about their day in the late 80s, so before the internet. That's key. Before cell phones, before everything was automated. That would be a totally different book if that had existed. Everybody's going about their normal days when suddenly everyone feels a blinding pain in their head, worse than any pain they've ever felt, but so fast that it's over before they can even gasp. And when that flash is over, no technology works anymore. Planes fall out of the skies, combustion engines don't work, electricity doesn't work. So the whole of the Pacific Northwest has to, and presumably the whole world. Later on, we learn it's the whole world. But in this little world of Willamette Valley, they all have to figure out how to live with just what they've got. They relearn how to live. And the reason why Mike Havel is one of the main characters, he's one of 3 main characters. And the reason why it's called the Bear Killer Clan is because at one point in the book, he has gathered together a bunch of people. He is a highly trained army operative. So he knows how to survive. And he's training these young people on how to survive, how not to make boneheaded errors, that sort of thing. And at one point, he is out in the field teaching people about tilling the ground when he looks over and sees 2 of his young people running towards him, and behind them is a bear that's chasing him. And he has to fight the thing. And he barely manages to survive, and that they therefore call themselves the Bear Killer Clan. I think you would like them. I really do. Give me the first one to try. I bet you would. But no recommendation comes before Jesus of Nazareth by Franco Zeffirelli. None does. Oh my God. Oh my God. You are going to love it.
Okay.
Absolutely love it.
Well, I will have to check it out. Jesus of Nazareth, the miniseries, and Dies of Fire.
Anthony Burgess wrote a novel called Man of Nazareth. That's kind of
is it a David novel or a Joseph novel that Burgess wrote?
No, Joseph Heller wrote God Knows, which is terrific. But it's not the same. Anthony Burgess was involved with the writing of Jesus of Nazareth. He was involved with the scripting, and he wrote 2 books that are basically his novelizations of the New Testament. So Man of Nazareth is one, and then The Kingdom of the Wicked, which is basically a big contextualized version of the Acts of the Apostles. They're both really good, but nothing compared to the movie. Oh my God. Oh, the miniseries. Just amazing. You're going to love it. I don't know what more to say.
Yeah, well, I will be sure to check it out, and we'll have to report back and have another one of these delightful chats if Steve will be willing to come back on.
Ruin your standing with FantasyTube. I didn't want to ruin your standing with FantasyTube.
That's okay. We'll just get Two to Ramble back on, wash the taste out of everyone's mouth, afterwards.
What if we all collabed? Huh? What do we got together? Two to Ramble and Jimmy Nuts and you and me?
I think the internet would explode, right?
The internet would explode. We were talking about fantasy and science fiction all night long. Oh, my. Wonderful.
All right. Well, we're going to end it there, folks. But thank you so much for talking with me, Steve. Thank you, everyone else.
We just bounced all over the place. Last time, like you said, we had a bit of a structure.
Yeah.
This just bounced all over creation. It was a lot of fun.
No, I had a blast. So thank you, everyone, for watching. If you made it this far, we'll see you next time.